Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. Good to see you here. Thank you so much for joining us on time. We're super excited for our event with Tanush. Here you have in the room myself, Sergey Revzin, my co-director at School 16, Vadim Revzin, and of course, Tanush Jagdish, our speaker for the afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here. We typically start about a few minutes after the hour. Just to let folks filter in. We had a good amount of RSVPs here for this event. We had to cap it at some point. So let's just let a few folks filter in. But again, thanks for joining us. We have here people from all over the country and perhaps other parts of the world. Feel free to put in the chat where you're dialing in from today, and if you'd like to let us know, what brought you to us as well. That's going to be super useful. We're going to try to make this session interactive here today. At School 16, we're all about expert-led learning. I'll do a quick introduction when we have a few more folks in the room and are about ready to start. But we do sessions like these at least once or twice a month. So now that you've signed up, you are on our email list and you'll get notified about future events that we have. But today we're going to be all ears for Tanush's session that we're excited to hear about how to actually apply agents in the workplace in different environments. We know we have a pretty eclectic group here today from different organizations, from universities, from nonprofits, from enterprises as well, small businesses. So pretty well represented group from all sorts of different types of orgs. So thank you again so much for everyone that joined us here on time. I'm going to give it another maybe 30 seconds or a minute before we kick off this event. We are recording this session. And so if you want to have access to the session, please let us know. Reach out to us afterwards and we can provide it for you as well. I'll also say this is completely optional. As you can see, the three of us, obviously, as the hosts and the speakers, have our cameras on. We know that people are dialing in from different areas, so feel free to put your camera on if you'd like, especially if you are commenting, asking a question, participating in any way. It just helps us get to know you. But again, that is optional and totally up to you. If you'd like to be a bit of a more passive observer, that is okay as well. Okay. Excellent.
Awesome, folks. So throughout today's session, you will be able to drop your questions into the chat. We'll also see if we have time at the end for folks to unmute themselves and ask questions, but the chat is going to be a good way for Sergey and myself to kind of manage what questions are coming in as Tanush is going through what he prepared to talk to you guys about today. And that way we can kind of inject those questions as well. And we are going to try to keep it interactive too throughout today.
Excellent. All right. Well, we're 4 minutes past the hour, so why don't we get started here today? I'll quickly introduce myself and our organization, then we'll ask Tanush for you to introduce yourself. But I'm Sergey Revzin. This is my co-director and twin brother. We look a little different, but my twin brother, who's been my co-founder in many different ventures, Vadim Revzin here. We started School 16 to help people learn from experts who are applying tools and technologies in businesses every single day. And we believe that learning from practitioners is the best way to learn. That's how we did it at NYU. We had some record successful classes that we taught at NYU, at Tanush School of Engineering, and other universities as well before we started School 16. And we believe expert-based learning is the way to go. We are focusing this particular series on how to apply technologies like artificial intelligence, large language models in the workplace. We hear a lot about what these tools can or cannot do. Some of it is hyped up, some of it is real. We really want to bring the practical into this. This is why we bring people like Tanush into this conversation, and that's really what we do at School 16 as an education institution. So we work with universities, enterprises, nonprofits, kind of small businesses, you name it. So if you're looking to learn how to apply these types of technologies and you want to learn more after Tanush's session, please do reach out to us. We're happy to see if we can be helpful or introduce you to someone who can. It's just our first name, Sergey at school16.co or Vadim at school16.co. That's enough about us. Tanush, please, if you could introduce yourself, tell folks a little bit about your background before we get started with your session for the day, that'd be great.
Thank you, Sergey. Nice to be here. I've known Sergey and Vadim for a couple of months now, and I'm very glad that we could finally do this. So, hi everyone. I'm Tanush. I'm the founder and CEO of Olito Labs. My co-founder Tyler, the CTO, is also on this call. We help businesses and individuals set up AI agents for themselves. And what is an AI agent, right? It's a very broadly put, and we'll go into that a little bit. Um, my background is I grew up in India. I came to the US for college. I wanted to be a biologist. I studied evolutionary biology all through college. I did my PhD at Harvard, where I got my first introduction to machine learning. And right as I was graduating, ChatGPT landed, and I think I realized there's a monumental shift happening very soon in terms of how work is done. So I essentially shifted full time to thinking about AI and agents. I joined McKinsey for 2 years, where I did all my work with AI. It was very early, and the partners were very afraid of using AI properly. So, at 2 years in, I knew I had to leave because things were moving too slowly, given how things were changing. And so I launched this company where we do both education, where we help people understand what AI and agents are so they can learn how to implement it in their workspace. But for whom that is not the priority, where they just want somebody to do it, we also engineer the agents for your setting and deploy it for you based on what your needs are. And if that's something that's on your mind, please do reach out. But that's an overview. And if you guys are okay, Sergey, Vadim, I'm happy to get started with the session.
Yeah, please do. That would be great. Let's get ready.
Awesome. It's nice to see everyone. Oh, Will Lepre. Wow. Hi, Will. So I would love to make this interactive, right? So I will try to see if I can ask questions and get responses. If I don't hear anything back, then I'll keep talking. But I feel it is really nice to make it more of a conversation where we um, Okay, the biggest reason for this is I've been in a lot of seminars and workshops where the audience loses sight of what the person is talking about after the first 10, 15 minutes. And then it feels like you're learning because you're listening to words and terminologies, etc. But you don't get a lot out of it. So if you have a question, if something doesn't make sense, again, I taught during my PhD for 5 years. So you've probably heard this from professors, etc. So it probably feels very stupid to say again. But if you have a question, 10 other people probably have that question. If you don't understand something, 10 other people probably didn't understand that thing as well. So please, speak out and stop me. Okay, let me share my screen. All right, can you guys see my screen okay? Oops,
Yes.
sorry. All right, let me just get Zoom back up here. That's not. Okay, so let's think through at the very basic level, what is an AI agent? And we've sort of been doing coaching individually with people for about 6, 7 months now. And we've seen a clear progression in terms of how people introduce themselves to large language models, and then as they start learning and become AI pilled, how they progress through the learning architecture. And this is how we've sort of broken down the rungs of learning. And I'm hoping um, it resonates with you. And if it doesn't, I'd love to sort of think through how you've been learning that's different. But before I dive into this, I just want to show you a figure. So in sort of the first 3, 4 months, based on everyone we talked to, we just put it on a graph in terms of where are people's skills. Okay, so the x-axis here is capability, and every dot that you see here is a person that we interviewed that we actually helped learn AI. So if you just think about people who use everyday chat, most people we talked to were somewhere around the better end of the spectrum, where they understood how to use the chat GPT, understood sort of how to do prompt engineering. But as you start going into more advanced prompting, adding the right sort of PDFs and adding the right sort of additional attachments and knowing how to really go from just prompting to working with multiple agents, etc. There was a sort of bimodal distribution that emerged where some people were still learning, but the ones who really put a lot of time into it progressed really quickly. And then if you really measured agentic, oh, sorry, if you really measured agentic use cases, most people were quite still early. And here, the question is, how can you use a Claude Code or a Codex to go do actual work for you, produce actual PDFs, produce actual deliverables, write your emails in a way that's actually sensible, not like how AI writes it. Most people were very, very early. So if you feel like you're behind, you're not behind. Most people are still sort of in the chat to advanced prompting stage, and LinkedIn just sort of confuses you into thinking, oh my God, everybody is sort of a magic AI genius. So I just want to start with that baseline. Okay. Uh, 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 any questions? Any thoughts or anything that comes up as I go through this? I'm just gonna pause for a minute. Okay. So let's go through the progression, right? So my guess is most people here who have interacted with AI, your first interaction with AI was via chat. You use ChatGPT or Claude. And this is again, you write something into an AI, the AI responds. This is how a large language model works. And this is sort of where the idea of next token prediction really comes. And early on, the LLMs were quite bad, and you would get a lot of hallucinations. Today, if you went to a ChatGPT, for the most part, you are likely not going to get made up answers as long as you provide all the right context. The biggest gap is going from chat to an agent. And what really is an agent? We'll get to it, but the idea here is it makes you full deliverables. Once people start learning how to use agents, the natural next step becomes, how do I standardize all my agent work? If today I ask my agent to, go make a PDF, and tomorrow I ask it the same thing, I want both those PDFs to look the same because my company has a certain way of doing PDFs. So that's when people start thinking about skills. How do I build a skill for how to make a PDF that represents my company? How do I make a skill that does marketing in the way that my company does? How do I make a skill that does my to-do list every day in the way I actually do it? Once people start learning how to put together skills for their agents, what we've seen the next stage is, can I build a personal second brain? Can I have the agent understand how I do all my work and where all my work actually lives and start building a memory of all the work it's actually doing for me? So if I say, based on the PDF I received from my client last week, can you put together a response and send an email? That is all the one sentence I need, and everything else should just execute perfectly. And that's sort of where this building a second brain comes. And as people start getting good at this, we've seen in our coaching program, the next thing that they want is, okay, why am I going and writing into a chat window every time? If the AI already has access to everything and it's doing everything, why do I not have a dashboard where I have where things are, where progress should be, et cetera, all in one place? And I think this is where the frontier is right now. If you are somebody who's really thinking about this, then it's an unsolved problem. And all of these are to some extent unsolved problems. There's startups being built at every stage here, where there's a startup that wants to build your whole memory, your whole brain for you. There's startups that want to make skills easy to build for your company, etc. So none of these are all solved, right? Like if you are working on any part of this, you are likely to some extent already better than 90% of the population. So I just want to again emphasize that you're not behind. Um, Again, I'm gonna pause. Does this framework make sense? Or if I could ask the audience, could you guys maybe, is there a way to set up a poll, Sergey, with him in this? Um, to host
Yeah, there
tools.
is. Let me see if I can spin it up quickly here. Okay.
I would love to
Yeah.
understand if people
What's the
have
question?
built their own skills or not in the audience. I would love to get a sense of, so if you could just do like a yes, have built skill, no, have not built a skill yet, don't even know what a skill is. Like maybe three options that people can vote.
Okay. Okay, let's see here. If I can show it.
Okay, I like it. Thank you for the messages.
All right, people
Thank
should
you.
be able
Thank you
to
so
see it
much.
now.
This is great. This is so helpful, you guys. Thank you. Okay, I think that's probably most of the participants. Thank you guys for responding. So you guys are listening. That makes me feel very good. Okay, so I hope everybody else is looking at the results, right? They can look at the results, like, right, you guys? It's not just me. Okay. So again, if you were feeling I'm really behind, just, uh, as you can see, we put skills as sort of the first thing people need to learn once they start getting used to agents. And the super majority of this group has either not built their own skill or has not even heard of it. And this is normal, right? From what we see. So I just, one thing that I get talking from people again and again is the anxiety that they have about, you go into work and your company screams AI, AI, AI at you all day, and it feels like everybody is doing something magical, but we're still quite early. So I would love then perhaps to use this session to let's build a skill live and let's work on how we take it from your first build for it to actually be something that's useful and shareable with your teammates. And I think this is very important to get right because skills are in some ways like the fundamental unit of work for an agent, right? So let's first go, what is an agent? So um, a chatbot is something where you put in a question, you get an answer back, right? It's just, am I stuck, you guys? No, okay. So it's just sort of a basic text with text coming back. There are workflows where, your company might have like an email agent or this agent, like very specific agents where they are connected to one tool. They're connected to drafting an email or they're connected to one knowledge base. Oh, that's what a workflow is, where it's not really an agent. It's kind of getting close to an agent, but it's very, very specific and curtailed to doing one job. It has a system prompt where its system prompt says you are an email agent. Your job is to draft really good emails. Look at this data source. That is still not really what an agent is. In my opinion, right? And this is, I think, sort of what the industry is aligned on. An agent is an LLM that has access to tools and has its own computer to some extent, where it can keep using those tools back and forth until it achieves a goal, right? So it has some knowledge base. I'm going to call this a brain. It has some knowledge base that it has access to. It has tools that it can use to get knowledge. It can then go back and forth on a goal that you've given it. And once it's satisfied, give you the answer saying, here's the final thing, right? So Claude Code, if you've used Claude Code, Codex, if you've used Codex, these are real agents. These are real agents where, let's look at Claude Code. Claude Code, you have Claude the LLM. That is the intelligence behind it. It'll have a bunch of skills that it probably already has. Claude Code and Claude Cowork have that. It has its own memory that it builds inside Claude Code. And it has like a main brain folder, the claude.md folder, where you can tell, here's how I write my emails, no M dashes, etc. This is a self-contained agent, and it uses your personal computer, your laptop, as its operating environment, right? It is able to write code into the computer's terminal and do things using your terminal, and it's a self-sufficient agent. You can also put this computer on the cloud and hence have an agent that works anytime you reach out to it. This is Cloud Code Web, or this is sort of other agents that startups are building. So that's sort of the main distinction. Now, once you have an agent, skills are the fundamental way in which you get it to start doing work the same way again and again. And then you can share those skills with other people in your team, and all of you can then have agents that do the same thing in the same context, if that makes sense. And this is actually a very good figure that tries to explain that, right? So you say something to an LLM, and you get a result in a chatbot. But the moment you have an agent, the LLM can then first look at the skills that you have. It can look at your weekly research skill and understand, oh, Amy does weekly research in a certain way. Jen or Sanda do email drafting in a certain way. Tyler preps for meeting in a certain way. It uses that constrained context to then go operate your tools, right? Instead of just directly going and randomly operating your tools. So it's really, really important, in my opinion, to learn how to build good skills because no matter how agents change, no matter how intelligence changes, skills are the way your agents will become better and better. And if people have heard of the bitter lesson, right? It's a very popular thing in the tech AI world where the bitter lesson of AI is compute and intelligence will get better and better. So you want to set up your data, you want to set up your skills such that if the models get better, as compute gets cheaper, your agents actually behave better. And the way to do that is to make your skills really, really good. And they apply to marketing, they apply to emails, they apply to honestly any job, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna quickly, if you have any thoughts, comments, please put it into the comments now or say something. Otherwise, the next step will be to actually just build our own skill life. No questions about skills. People feel very comfortable with the idea. Even if it's a very stupid question, I encourage you to ask it.
So from my side, we use Claude Enterprise at work, right? And so when I got it's different from my Claude at home. It seemed like it was Claude with training wheels. So literally it asked me what skills I wanted to add, and it had it by role. So product manager, marketing, et cetera, et cetera. So those skills in my interpretation of that is that it was these are pre-built templates for the kinds of tasks those different roles would perform. Is that a skill?
Yes. Okay. Great question. I don't have that here yet. Yes. So it seems like let me just get this right. So you have a Cloud Enterprise account, and it seems it came pre-built with perhaps a product manager skill and sorry, where did that go? And perhaps an email drafting skill or perhaps a marketing skill. So when you asked Claude, Claude said it already had that.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So what it seems is when your company got the enterprise account, it seems the IT team or whoever is the admin, they worked with with Anthropic or sort of an internal committee to come up with what are some skills that we should have pre-built into Claude. It's either that or it's Anthropic's native skills. So Anthropic itself ships a few skills out of the box to begin with. These do not tend to be things like product management. They are more general. They are like PDF or they are PowerPoint
I
or Word document,
see. Brilliant. Okay, helpful.
right? So actually, let me show you out of the. I'm going to show you my Claude code. Um, actually, before does when you say you have Claude Enterprise, do you have this desktop app or are you using it via Claude.ai or Claude.com on the web browser?
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
Like, are you using it on Google Chrome or do you have like an application on the computer that you're opening?
I think it's an app on the computer.
Okay, so my guess is then you have access to Claude Cowork and Claude Code. So if I ask
You
Claude
do.
Cowork,
Yes,
what's
100%.
awesome? So what skills do you have? Claude Cowork especially comes pre-built with a set of Anthropic's skills that you can even go into settings to figure out, but you can also always just ask the AI and it'll tell you what skills it has. So it
Okay,
comes with
that
Canvas.
is crazy cool. Who knew? That is very cool.
And the thing is, I don't know, RC, I don't know your first name, but thank you for asking this because I am willing to bet a bunch of people on this call did not know. And I think we just pull forward as companies and as enterprises without doing this sort of basic what is our understanding of how this works. So okay. So I'm guessing there's a bunch of skills like this that you already have. But if you have something like product management and others that are specific to your company, then your company also has the right to put those skills in out of the box so that everybody uses the same skill to some extent, if that makes sense. Okay. Um, any other questions, you guys? Anyone else?
We had a question in the chat from Rupin. How is it different from prompt engineering?
Very good question. So skills are an evolution of prompt engineering. Okay. So, sorry, skills are an evolution of prompt libraries. So you guys, a year ago, it was very hot as a company to have prompt libraries. A prompt for what's a good, email summarizer, a prompt for what's a good meeting recap summarizer, whatever. Prompts are a long string of text, right? Where you say, hey, do this a certain way. Whereas a skill, let me actually show you where a skill really lives. So do I want to do that? Will that get too confusing? I'm going to do it. So, the way it works is there's a .claude folder, which am I stuck? I'm stuck.
No, that's
Oh, we
fine.
see your folder.
Okay, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so there's a hidden folder called a .claude folder. This is your Claude's brain. In it, it has a skills folder where stores all the skills. So, in the world of prompt libraries, each of these skills, so a bunch of these skills are ones that I have made, and so these are custom skills. But each of these skills in the old prompt library world would have been a prompt. So, the memory would have just been a prompt. So, our memory skill is honestly, it is just a prompt. Let me open it and show it to you guys if I can. What is happening? Okay, there we go. Okay, so our memory skill is essentially a long string of text that says, this is a skill where you can read and update our product's brain, and here's all the folders to look into. And then this is just a basic description. It's a name and it's a description. And then we have a longer overview of what the skill should do, etc., etc. So this skill is actually just a prompt, right? And at the most basic level, this is what a skill does. It's an explanation of how something works. The key difference is that this top section that you see, This top section, your Claude, when it wakes up, it's always reading this top section of every skill that you have. Okay, so this is the memory skill. Let me show you the Gmail skill, right? So let me show you the skill.md. Look, this top section says this is a Gmail skill. It has a Gmail CLI, and here's the full explanation of how it works. So when your Claude is waking up, it is reading this top section of every skill to understand what are all the skills I have and when to use it. Some skills, like the memory skill, it is just a prompt. But other skills, like the Gmail skill, it has extra subfolders where I have Python scripts for how to look through my Gmail, how to draft Gmail responses, how to put things in different folders. It also has references for how I write, right? So my writing style reference says, Tanush writes like a smart friend who happens to be building something. Don't act like a marketer or a sales rep. Please don't use M dashes. You should be conversational. Don't use AI slop. etc. Like things that you would do that are part of who, RC is, are part of who Lionel is. These need to become inside your skill. And the thing is, all of that cannot live in just a prompt, right? Your prompt needs to be very simple. It needs to say, this is what the skill does, but look at the references, look at the scripts for how to use it. That's the basic idea of a skill. It's an evolution from a simple prompt to having a full folder as a prompt, where you still have a basic skill.md that explains what it does, but it has subfolders with examples, with references. This especially becomes really important when you look at something like our slides skill. So we have a custom skill that makes professional presentations. It has a skill.md that create strategic HTML presentations, etc., etc. But we have references of all these different, examples that we've made before for executives, for consulting styles. So if I show you one example, we have a whole template put together for how to use photos, how to use titles, how to sort of do all of the big numbers. These examples our agent can look at and then make a really good presentation. And as you might have noticed, right, if you're just using prompting, a lot of the times what's in these skill files you are doing via prompting anyway. Sorry. uh what happened here, guys? There we go. Okay. Um, a lot of what's in these examples, references of my slide skill, if you were trying to make a slide, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you the whole time.
Okay. Sorry. I think everything is getting stuck for me because I have too many things open. I apologize. Um, as you start using if you were trying to make a slide, you put in a prompt and say, hey, make it this style. Then it's not gonna be great. So you're gonna say, look at this example I made last week, make it more like this. Then it's gonna mess up somewhere with its title or subtitle. And then you're gonna say, add all this. The idea is you take all of those things that you keep giving feedback on and you embed it into a skill. So you never have to repeat those points of feedback, right? I'm guessing most of you lose time with AI by doing this repetitive, don't do this, do this, don't do this, do this. You want that embedded in the skill, not if you're saying something twice, it needs to be a skill. That's the core idea to sort of really get behind.
Wow. Okay.
So thanks for that.
That's great.
Okay, so I'm going to pause here a bit more because any other questions, any other thoughts on this?
Nothing other than amazing. So everything that you said is on point. Like, and especially the comment about the always babysitting it. Like, even some of the image generation tools are insane.
Yes,
You ask it to change one thing and it changed 15. So,
exactly.
so now I know. And so I'm wondering, I guess you could put say a template, like if you have a corporate template they want you to use into a skill where
I
I
love
saw.
it. Yeah, and let's actually do that live because RC, I have you and you're actually responding. So unless somebody else wants to also volunteer, let's spend our time. How much time do we have? We have 30 minutes. So let's build a skill for the use case you mentioned. So let's say your job is marketing and your job is to create these posters for webinar. Actually, RC, would you want to give us the use case? I don't want to make one up. Let's give a use case for making something regularly that needs to be a certain style, and let's go with that.
Sure. So we have a corporate template for PowerPoint, say, or Google Slides in our instance, but let's just say PowerPoint because most people use that. It's a template, right? Blank. They want all of our content in there, but I would like to I have the words, but I want to populate those words, or even better than that, I might have an old PowerPoint that I want to take the words out and in that format and put it in the corporate template. Either way, we could play with it any way that makes sense for your skills class today. But that's a real challenge, right? Like, if you have, I saw a template in your skills. It looks like you had a presentation there. Maybe share with us ways that skills can work with templates. Maybe that's a better way to ask it to keep it in keeping with today's topic.
Yeah. Okay. So there's two ways to do this, right? A, if you already have a template. B, if you don't yet have a template. I would sort of approach them in different ways. If you already have, and this doesn't necessarily apply to slides, it applies to everything, right? Say you want to have a pipeline or a workflow for how you do deal intake, whatever, okay?
Sure.
Maybe your company already has a template for how the intake should be done, or
Mhm.
maybe it's all in memory. So
Sure.
if you have a template, the way I would sort of do it is give the template to the agent to begin with and say, here's how our company does, design PowerPoints. If we were to take this template and make it into a skill, how would we do it so that the AI can then use the template later?
Ah,
It's
got
as
it.
simple as that. So maybe we try
Wow.
that first because that's the easier part. And
Wow.
instead of template, I'm going to go Google for a template. So what's a popular design template we should steal? McDonald's, Mr. McDonald's. McDonald's.
Sounds fun.
Maybe let's do McDonald's image or design template. Okay. Maybe McDonald's is not the. Okay, maybe I'll take this image. Okay, and let's pretend this image is a template, okay, because it provides the color combinations and everything.
Okay.
Generally, your templates will be a lot better because it'll actually have what colors to use, etc., etc. But let's just start with that. And I'm going to paste it here. And I'm going to, okay, so this is in Cloud Code. And I'm going to say, I want to put together a new slide making template. I want to actually, let's make a graphic generation template. I am working for someone who works at McDonald's, and they want a skill that they can use for generating marketing images that are consistent with the attached template I have given you.
Wow.
I would
Wow.
like to make that a skill. And then look, if you have Cloud Code or Codex, they both come with skill creator skills. So they have a skill that is a specialist in making new skills. And generally in Cloud Code, the way you find skills is you press slash, it'll show you all the skills that are available. And I'm going to start typing skill creator. Skill. What?
Is
Okay,
this
I'm just going to say,
generator?
I would like you to make a
Skill
skill, use
generator?
your skill creator skill. I'm just going to ask you to do that.
Okay.
And put together a graphic making skill for McDonald's. That's it. That's really all I need to do. You can even, if you want to build trust, you could even start by saying, summarize this template for me. What is this template? Like if you were to make it a skill, what are all the themes that you want to put into the skill? And it'll tell you, it needs to have gold, it needs to have red, it needs to be this, this, this. So then you can actually give it feedback if you'd like. But I'm at the point where I trust it. So look, it found the skill, it found the Anthropic skill creator skill, which it had. And now it's going to use that to figure out, I need to make a skill for McDonald's branded image consistent with the template I got. The template is red gold, McDonald's aesthetic, golden arches product, etc., etc. And we're going to start with that and it's going to make a skill. Okay, let's see. For those who don't have Cloud Code, yeah, I don't use Gemini as much, Rachel. So from what I understand, gems are similar. The only difference is, again, it goes back to the difference I told you guys between a agent and a chat. A gem is still very much in the chat world, where making a specialist gem is sort of giving it a specialized prompt. And sometimes you can give it knowledge bases that are within the Google environment, like Google Docs, etc. But the fundamental difference is that gems don't have their own computer. So here, this skill will allow this agent to make new images and make it a PDF and put it into your email or something like that. Generally, web-based interfaces that are not full agents, they don't have these capabilities because they don't have their own computer in which to operate things. So gems are a bit more limited in that way, if that makes sense. Okay, so now generally when you ask your agents to make a skill, they'll ask you questions. They'll be like, okay, how should the skill actually produce the images? Um, do you want it to have brand exact composition, AI generated images, or you can give your own options? I'm gonna just go with, this is totally fine. What output formats do you want? Um, oh yeah, a social post ready is perfect. Okay, and submit. And you can always also prompt your agent to say, ask me more questions, interview me more thoroughly so that you have everything that you need. Lionel, you are right. You can definitely do this also with GPT, but the way I would do it is I would use Codex. So this is Codex. It seems very similar to Claude, but essentially it is their agentic version that you can download. Codex, if you haven't heard of it. And if you have ChatGPT Enterprise, Codex comes along with it. So you should be able to use Codex as well. ChatGPT has the same issue as I mentioned with GEMS and others, where it's a web-based chatbot. It is very powerful. It can connect to different things, but ultimately, because it doesn't have its own computer, it is not going to be able to do the amazing things that will deliver magic in the way Claude Code and others will. Um, okay, while we let that work, I'm also going to start a second thing where we say, this time say I don't have a template, okay, and I want to make a skill. So I can just say, I want to make a Actually, let me pause before I go in. Any questions? Any thoughts?
Where does that skill go once you've built it? So now the skill is built, it's done. Um, then now I'm going to power up my computer again, jump in, and now I'm ready to use that skill. How
Yeah.
do I access it? Is it still a slash command?
Yes, it should start now showing up in your Claude Code as a slash command. So remember when I asked Claude Cowork list all my skills?
Uh-huh.
If you say, hey, where are all my skills? It should start showing up in the same
I
list
got
and it will
it.
be stored. And in reality, it is going to be stored like I showed you earlier in your .claude folder inside the skills folder. That's where it actually stores it.
Ah,
Uh,
okay.
And generally, the folders that start with the dot, they're not visible to you. If you have a MacBook, you can make them visible by Command Shift period, I think, or you can Google it, like you can figure it out. These tend to be hidden folders where, so if I do Command Shift period, they're gone. Command Shift period, they show up. So
Mm,
you can make them show up and you can go look directly in the dot cloud folder in the skills. Oh, this is where all my skills are.
got it. Alfonso asked a good question too about the skills in Cloud Code.
Let me look at the question.
So yeah, I was just typing out an answer, so I'll take this one. Yeah, so yes, or codex. I mean, I really have never heard of anyone making a skill by hand. Um, the key is that the agent has to be at a point where it understands how to create the skill, right? So what I was typing was a common pattern that you'll see is people will have the agent go figure out how to do an instance of that workflow. Okay, so the skill doesn't exist yet. You just ask it to do the work, and it requires some manual back and forth, right? But throughout that session, the AI actually learns, here's how I accomplish this type of task. So then after that work is done, you can ask it to encapsulate its knowledge that
Yeah.
right for now is only contained in that session into a skill, which allows it to persist beyond that session.
That was part two. Tyler, thank you, Tyler. So that's actually exactly the next thing that I was going to go into. But before I really like this, is this part makes sense? Like, okay, so what we've learned so far is if there's already a human skill that exists, right? Like a template is essentially a skill for humans, right? A template is something a human gives to a human to be like, here's how we do the work. Use the same thing, just fill it in. If that exists, then you can just give that template to an agent and say, make it into a skill. But next, we'll go into if you don't have that, how do you make a skill from scratch? And what Tyler said is really important. But that's the thing, I don't want to confuse you guys. So I just want to take a pause and any other thoughts or questions before we dive into that. Okay. All right. So let's make our own skill now. Okay. So say now you want to put together a marketing skill that looks like McDonald's imagery, right? And obviously McDonald's stuff exists everywhere. So that's it's a slightly different point. Um, but let's say it doesn't. How would we get there? Do not start by trying to make a skill, as Tyler said. You want to first start by trying to get the output you want. Okay. So the output I want is an Instagram ready image that looks like McDonald's is marketing. Let's take it from the audience. What is McDonald's building? What is it making that it needs a new marketing image for? I will not continue without an audience answer. A veggie burger. Thank you so much. All right. So I want to make a Instagram ready image that we can post to market our new veggie burger. Um, we are going to have McDonald's like aesthetics, so gold and red and arches. Imagine McD is making a veggie burger. Make this. That's it. I'm going to start with that. Now, obviously, if it's your company, you need a bit more than McDonald's red and gold. You'll likely be like, we are at School16. Here's our logo. Here's sort of our color patterns. Make me the image. That's kind of what you're going to say. You want to start by just getting an output to begin with. You do not want to go into this planning stage where you're trying to get all the skills and everything perfectly right so that you can then use that to make the image. And the reason is that you don't know what the agent needs to make the perfect image yet. So what you want to instead do is, if you don't give it much, if you just give it the basic instruction, given all the resources it has, what is it going to make? And the key lesson again here is you don't want to be in the agent's way. You want to get out of the way of the agents and let it do best what it can do. If what it produces, given this freedom, is not up to the mark, we're going to give it feedback. We're going to say, I don't like big font. I want it to be small font. I don't like these borders. We never use borders. We use this. We always use this sort of thing. Just as you would give it to a human, we're going to go back and forth with this feedback. Finally, when the image looks really, really good, like you would post this, only then at the end of the chat are we going to say, okay, I like it. Now let's make a skill. Look at all the feedback I gave you throughout this chat, and let's make a marketing skill that encompasses all of it, right? And this goes back to what RC and others said earlier, which is the reason we do it this way is so that you capture all the things you had to give feedback for. Because those things are going to come up again as you had experience. If you give 10 points of feedback today, tomorrow, if you're going to do the same task, you're going to likely give the same 10 points of feedback. Tiny font, too much space, AI slop like colors. The fact that you've given all that feedback once in a chat, because the chat has the memory of it, it can take all of that and instill it inside that skill rather than you have to come up with it from scratch. Like if you don't go back and forth, you don't know what feedback to encapsulate in that skill, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so this agent is taking some time. It's figuring it out. It's finally it's going to make an initial veggie burger thing. Oh, it says it made it. So let's look at it. That's pretty good. The golden veggie, 100% plant-based, 100% crave-worthy. That's beautiful, actually. I'm gonna say, okay, I like it, but we are actually not just McD anymore. We have partnered with Chipotle. We need our brands to be this, commingled, uh, and make sure to always have small border for each post and have a big TM sign on the bottom right? Say these are important points of feedback. You want to give that feedback. And only once you get the new image and the image actually looks good, do you say, okay, I like it. Now let's make a custom skill that encapsulates all the feedback I gave you. Now, obviously, if that very first image was great, you want to stop there and say, I love it. Let's make a skill that makes sure you consistently make the same thing every time, each time. Now, tomorrow, when you reuse the same skill, if you give any other feedback, that needs to go back into the skill. Yeah, a skill is, again, so a skill is not an agent. So if you go back here, a skill is a folder that the agent can call when needed. The agent is actually just the intelligence with the freedom to do what it wants. And that generally means it has access to its own computer, like your cloud code. So a skill is literally, think of it as a prompt. Think of a skill as a prompt with some additional examples that the prompt has labeled. It can be like, here's how to build the marketing skill. Here's 3 examples in the subfolder. And instead of the agent reading that prompt every time, it knows that if asked a marketing question only, should it go open that folder, go look at that prompt. That's the main difference. Okay, so if you go back to where's the Cloud Code folder? Cursor, Agent Dolly, Cloud. Okay. Okay, so apparently it has made it. Let's look at the new co-branded version. Perfect. It has the big TM sign, it has the big border, it has the Chipotle, McDonald's, perfect. And then I'm gonna be like, perfect. Take everything that we covered in this chat, including all the feedback I gave you, and put it into a skill so that we can make the same quality of images as needed in the future. Use your skill creator skill. And that's it. And now you have your marketing skill baked in. The agent is your entire diagram, correct? Exactly, RC. The agent is the entire diagram. This whole thing is sort of needed for it, in my opinion, for it to be called an agent. The one thing that's sort of missing here is, for the LLM to find the skills, find the memory, etc., it needs to operate in a computer because ultimately, right, an LLM only produces text. It's a next text predictor, but code is also text. The reason agents are so powerful is because you say, hey, open my folder and ask and do something. The LLM produces text, which is code that is put into your computer. That code opens the folder, reads what's needed, and comes back. Yeah, let's look at that. So let's just first see if the skill has been made. So okay, so in the earlier thing, we gave it a whole template, right? We gave it a whole template and we asked it to make a skill. So it's doing that bit by bit. It's still working on it. It's actually taking screenshots of all the things in the template and making sure it's consistent. Um, Once it is done, we will go look at the skill. I think it's not done making it yet. Okay, next. As long as you have the skill.md file, are those able to easily travel with you if you are working on different projects for different clients or move organizations? Exactly, Alfonso. So it's not just the skill.md file. So what will happen is every skill will show up as a folder here. So maybe it will show up as like a brand something folder. But so if I left Olito Labs, then I will very likely take my slides skill with me. This whole folder, you can put it into Google Drive. You can put it into your Dropbox or GitHub or whatever. And the way we encourage organizations build AI agents is that you have a shared repository for all your skills. So all these skills that you see here, Tyler, me, and our employees all have the same access to. So whenever we make a brand design skill, it uses the same skill. And if Tyler updates that skill today, those updates show up for the rest of us. And so we make sure we have a shared skill system that we're all using. Um, okay. And APIs. Explain those and tell us where they would appear in your diagram. Amazing question. Amazing question. Okay. So would anyone like to no, maybe I should just explain it. So um, let's go to this sort of no, let's skip to this definition. This is an LLM, right? Now, I say something to the LLM responds in text. Um, I say to the LLM, please go look at my skills to see what I have. The LLM responds with code that then can look in the computer for what skills it has. But now say, what's a better diagram? Okay, I'm going to go back to the same diagram. But now say, I asked the same LLM, hey, go look at what new emails I got, right? So unlike skills that are on your computer and can write code to look at that skill on your computer, how is it going to go look into your Gmail to find your emails, right? So the way tech has solved this is that companies make APIs. APIs is like a pipe between one company's data to another company's data. That's literally it. It's just wiring between different data repositories. So Gmail publishes its APIs on how you can authenticate and then give yourself access to the API. So instead of you opening the gmail.com, your agent can then use the API to go look at your emails to scan what's needed. So it ends up just becoming one more tool that it will call via writing code. And an MCP is something very similar. An MCP is simply APIs that are custom made for agents with an explanation of how to use the APIs. So think of it as a skill for using APIs. That's really what. Think of MCPs and APIs as very similar. They're not that different. Um, of course, thank you, Ivan. And then okay. And then Rachel, what's your question on updating skills?
Well, it just made me a little nervous because, sure, you and your colleagues are all updating skills. I don't want to say simultaneously, but what's to say that your updated skill doesn't conflict with somebody else's the next day or the next week? How do you provide that governance?
Amazing question. It is an unsolved problem.
Yeah.
Anybody that is telling you it is fully solved is lying, right?
Okay.
Now, there's ways you can solve this, which is very consistent in coding, right? So multiple people work on the same code repositories, right? And they submit pull requests, and there's a way to look at, oh, Tyler submitted this solution to the code, Tanush submitted this solution. How are they different? I'm going to go with Tanush's, but I'm going to pick something of Tyler and add that, right? That's how we are solving it. That's how most people will solve it, which is, yeah, people can update their skills as needed. And then you submit that as a pull request, as like an edit request to the main skill that everybody uses. And there should be somebody in your organization whose job is to look at Rachel's submission, Jin's submission, Amy's submission, and be like, what should we actually use? And then use the one that you really want. So that governance needs to be built based on how your company operates. But comparison and pushing it, combining it, what actually exists is a solved problem. This human governance on, do teams have the right to have their own skills, or should they be only enforced to use what is top down mandated? That is all being figured out live by organizations across the board, and you should have your own opinion as a company on how to do that, in my opinion. It's a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. APIs and MCPs have been like muddled to hell by all the people that are, and then people like to use the terminology MCPs a lot without understanding what it is. So your confusion is not alone, I promise you. Um, okay, now let's go back to how our skills are doing. Cloud Code. Where's Cloud Code? There we go. Wow, this is still doing it. My gosh. Especially the latest versions of the Cloud Opus models are very thorough. They're going to go back and forth to make sure everything lines up and it's perfectly what it needs to be. Okay, I think it has created the skill called brand add image. Let's see if it's actually showing up. Maybe not yet. Maybe it needs to be fully done. But I guess you guys get the idea here. Once they are, I should be able to just ask, show me all the skills, and it should be there. So let me just one idea that I really want to press on is as you're making as you're making skills, don't give up if the first two times you make your skills, it's not great. Okay. Skills get really, 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 really good as you just make sure to keep giving it feedback. Today, you'll make a skill, it'll likely get you 50% of the way there to what it really needs to look like, right? Tomorrow, use the same skill to make the brand image or something else. Give it feedback to get it to the right thing and ask it to update the skill. Because you're enriching on that same skill and making it better with each time, it really compounds. And within a week or two, you will find that, okay, 90% of the feedback you used to give it, it's more or less all being able to do it straight away. So that's one of the biggest piece of advice. Like, if you take anything away from this, take this because it's going to really help you work with agents better. And it's transferable. It's transferable from your Codex to your Cloud Code to Gemini to anything else. We are converging on how skills are being used. And then sort of the long-term vision is that each of us should have our own AI brain. So it's a brain that we give to our AI agent. This is inclusive of the rules, the memories, and all the skills that you use. And then they connect to all the external places where you do work. That is another alignment convergence that we've been seeing in terms of how people use agents. Okay, let me go back. Yes, we are working on a structured course. We're actually also trying to see if we can collaborate with School16. We do one-on-one coaching for executives. So the price for that is higher, but if you're interested in that, please reach out. We don't have a structured mass-produced course yet. We're working on it. It's based on all this data that we're learning from one-on-one coaching. And we would love your feedback if you thought this was actually useful. I know it's a lot of information, and I'm sorry. It's my mistake. It is not on you. I hope you understand that. This is a lot of information, and it's sort of at the frontier of how people are using AI. Yes, happy to share deck as well. Recording, I think School16 folks will share after. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing, and I want to be open to like really stupid questions, like really, really fundamental, basic questions, please.
So when
I'll jump in
you've
with
done
one.
this, like you've made the skills. Sorry if I interrupted anyone else.
No,
Um,
please go ahead.
okay. Um, have you ever come and interacted where this will can actually react autonomously? Like it's like a continuous loop that this is doing this.
Beautiful question. We had that was what was on the last slide actually, which is you want to first focus on this part of the journey, which is locally on demand, getting the skill to work well. But once your skills are working well, you really want to graduate to what's on the right-hand side here, which is if your skills are trustworthy again and again, then those skills can graduate to be given to autonomous agents. Autonomous agents are agents that come alive either on a schedule. So every day at 8 a.m., an agent wakes up, it has its own computer in the cloud. It looks at your briefing, looks at your email, uses your briefing skill to create the PDF, and sends you the briefing every morning. We do that. Like if you look at our Slack, let me show you our Slack super quick. We have a sales channel where every morning our own internal Ollie will do a sales buzz. It'll say, you have two external calls today, an investment firm we talked to in the morning, School16, this is partnership, it's not revenue, 43 people have RSVP'd, here's the full brief I made for you. Now, this did not happen on day one, right? It first happened where we worked on our briefing skill. We made sure the skill could understand all the context and give us what we needed. And only once we had that sorted did we combine it with an autonomous agent that was able to do this for us without needing input from us. So I would say this is part of the process to get there. Because if you try and do an autonomous agent right off the bat, you don't know why it fails. What I've seen across the board is the autonomous agent is just doing shit, and the company and the people just start ignoring what it's doing because it's useless. And that's
Yeah.
a very bad place to be because people now don't trust the agent, and you don't know why it's not working because you didn't get to actually iterate with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Um, sorry, just one more question on top of that. So for like a compliance standpoint, have you like you said, like some companies have like actually no idea what they're doing, and then it leads to confusion within the workplace. Have you seen like from a compliance standpoint where they're auditing these logs so they can understand like where it actually is failing?
Um, there's many startups that are born to do this. There's startups that have raised tens of millions of dollars. I have not seen any company do this really well right now. It is an unsolved problem.
Okay.
A big part of the product we are building, one problem we're trying to solve is this, which is just based on everything that's happening on the logs in the back end. Can we do recursive self-improvement of the system, RSI? It is the next sort of billion trillion dollar thing that people are trying to solve. So um, it's not just that some companies are not doing them. Most companies, 99% of companies are not doing this properly, and it is the norm right now. Um, I have thoughts on what are good ways to solve it. Um, there's two things with compliance, right? The first thing with compliance is what data are you comfortable sharing with the Claudes and the GPTs of the world?
Mhm.
You can get zero data retention agreements with them such that it's all, even if you have HIPAA and other protections, it should still work. That I think is a solvable problem. It's just a matter of how do you get there. The harder problem is your company's data. How all the different silos where your company's data lives, from SharePoint to your emails to Confluence, how do you get it to an organized way so an agent can access what it needs in a thoughtful way by asking people the right permission? Nobody has solved that, in my opinion, yet.
Got it. Thank you very much.
All right, folks. Well, we are coming up here at the hour. So First of all, a lot of amazing questions here in the chat. I really appreciate the engagement with the session. Vadim is going to drop a couple of things here. One is a feedback form if you want to leave open-ended feedback or you have some questions you get a chance to ask. And then also he's going to leave our email addresses. Somebody asked about a course. We are working on a course and we are working on partnering with Tanush on that and his organization. So feel free to reach out to us. Vadim also dropped our email addresses here if you want to talk about something specific. And we're also happy to connect you with Tanush as well. Tanush, I want to thank you so much for your enthusiasm, obviously, the depth of knowledge that you have, opening up and sharing your screen and showing everybody how these things are done and answering whatever questions came your way. Thank you so much for such a interesting and informative and engaging session, Tanush. And thank you to our audience for interacting as well. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Tanush. All right, folks, we will see you at the next event. If you signed up to our email list, we will host probably another one in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But again, do feel free to reach out if you didn't get a chance to ask something or if you had something specific you wanted to get into, either with us or Tanush, and we will point you in the right direction. Thanks again for your time. Thank you, Tanush. Thanks, Tyler, for jumping in as well. And we'll see you all soon.
Bye, folks.
Thank you.